Hi there, Stampers. It's Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. Welcome to our Monday Live. Can you believe we were in the week of Thanksgiving already? This year has just like flown by, especially the last month or two. And I know Thanksgiving's late this year, so Christmas is going to be here before we know it. Um, Today we are doing a fun fold, of course, because it's Monday, and this one is actually interactive. And so I wanted to show you. It's going to start out with a closed card, and then when we open it, those little pieces pop out. And then when you close it, they fold back underneath and go back underneath. So I'm excited to show you how this one's done. So let's get down to my desk so we can get started. Okay, here is our card. Again, it kind of works better down on the table. And I did round the corners. I know Stampin' Up! Doesn't have a corner rounder right now, but I was trying to make it so that they don't hit down here. They need to be a little bit high to go underneath. But I think you're going to like it. So we're going to start out with a standard card base. We do a lot of them that just kind of start out as standard and then we add to it. This one is going to be 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. And then we have 3 pieces of designer series paper. And so I'm going to use the more bold pattern, I guess you could say, on the inside. These are each 5 1/4 by 4, and there's 3 of them. And then I'm going to use the mild one on the outside. Okay, to create this little thing that it goes under, I have a piece of cardstock here again. This is Pretty in Pink, so it matches our card base. It's 2.5 inches wide and 4 1/4 tall, and it's scored at 1/2 inch and 1 inch. So that's going to create our little fold in the front. So they're both mountain folds. Okay, we have 2 little pieces here that are 2 3/8 by 2 1/4. So they're just slightly different. Probably could even do them 2 1/4 by 2 1/4, but I'm just following one. It was Jay Serrano out of the UK. He's the one who did this. Either he or his partner, one of them, is where I got the pattern. And we did this at my royal retreat. So we're just doing it up in a different bundle. So there's 2 of those. I have a little piece that's going to be our mechanism. That's going to go behind the cake back there. So this one is, let's see, 1 inch by 3 1/4, scored at 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and 2 3/4. Okay, so that's going to kind of make something like that. Again, all mountain folds. So it's going to go up here. And then I have this piece here. This is the only complicated piece. And so we're going to go over how I made this with cameras and all. I wanted to make sure I got one that fully functioned as I show you how it's done. Then I have some designer series paper to decorate this here. So this is 2 1/4 by 3. And then I have 3 by 1/2, or because it's 1/4 inch. Yeah, that's going to go down there. And then I've got several pieces of all the little ephemera that comes in this Wildflower birthday. And you could totally do this with stamps. I just was trying to simplify things because we're all about the fold here. And being that it's Christmas, we don't all have a whole lot of extra time, right? So having an ephemera is going to make things just move along that much faster. I used the banner greeting or banner sayings bundle. So I have this stamp or this punch and this stamp set. And I punched out this one in the white. And then I did this one in the Pretty in Pink. And we're just going to trim down the flags off of this one. so that when we mount it on the card, it's going to be just flat on both sides. Okay, for this piece here, I started out with a piece of cardstock. Let me pull up my diagram so that I get all of this straight. I know I have a little bit of a problem getting flustered when the camera is rolling. So let me get my diagram up and we will do this together. Because that's the only real tricky part of this card, is getting that little thing going. Okay, so here we are. So I need a piece of Pretty in Pink cardstock that is 1 3/8 by 7.5. So I'm going to bring in my trimmer. Okay, so 1 3/8, that's going to be just under 1.5. And then we can fold out the arm to get our 7 inches. Okay, then we want to score this at 1/2 inch on the short side, and then 1 inch on the short side. Okay, then we're going to take this and we're going to spin it, and we're going to come in 2.5 inches. Did I do 7.5? I didn't. Okay, you're going to come in 2.5 inches. So pretend I'm doing this correctly. Oops, and then we're going to go 2.5 inches on this side. See, this is why I pre-cut it. But yours will just be a little longer in the middle, but the next step is all going to be the same. What we're going to do is we're going to take the line that goes between the two bigger pieces, the two 1/2 inch pieces. So this one's going to be 3/8. It's slightly smaller. And then we're going to measure in on that score line, that 1/2 inch score line, 1/2 inch. Okay. And then we're going to cut from there to that corner and there to that corner. And again, mine should be 1/2 inch longer, so yours will be a little longer in the middle. But we're going from this corner to that corner. So we have our score line here, and then we have our score line over here. And so we just went in 1/2 inch and made our point there. And those are going to be score lines. So you want to come back in and score those. I did a pencil so you guys could see it, because the score line's not going to be as obvious on camera. And if you are one of those who loves directions, there will be printed directions in book 4. We are already partway through that one, getting it ready to go. And so I've made diagrams and full measurements, and all of that's going to be in book 4. Okay, so those are scored from this point, which is 1/2 inch in, to each corner on the score lines. Then we're going to cut off the 4 corners. So we're going to cut off this piece. And this piece. And again, yours would be 7.5 inches long. I'm working with 7, which is wrong. But it's all going to work out the same. Your middle piece is just going to be a little bigger. Okay. So now you have this. Okay, now what we want to do is take those lines where we scored and we're going to score them. So we're just kind of folding them in like a milk carton, I guess is the way I want to describe it. And this one looks a little wonky. And you know what? It doesn't matter that it looks wonky because it's all going to be popped out for display when the card is open. And then when the card is closed, it's going to be underneath that little hideaway panel and nobody's going to see it. So don't worry about that. Everything is going to be good. So we're going to take that piece. Okay, and we're going to use that in our card. So let's just put down some layers. Simplify things on my desk here. There we go. So does anybody have any exciting plans for the Thanksgiving week? It's going to be just my husband and I again. That's kind of become a tradition here since the kids grew up and moved out of the house. But I have some exciting news in that my daughter invited us to come out and spend Christmas with her in New Mexico. So we booked tickets and we're going to be flying out there on the 22nd through the 3rd. So once again, you will have a few little pre-filmed videos, although I don't think I'm going to go live on Thanksgiving, Christmas, or New Year's Day. So those 3 days are all on a Thursday. So I won't have lives those days. Because book 4 is on its way, I have a feeling I will have some pre-filmed videos that I'll go ahead and put up during that time. So, and you'll have your Mondays, of course. Helen says it's rough having to wait till the time on the East Coast. Sorry about that. But I'm glad that you made it. Okay, now that we have our 3 layers down, the next thing we want to do is work with this piece, right? And what I want to do is I want to take the one that has just the single side, and we're going to mount that right here in the middle. Now, if you want, you can come in and mark the middle, because again, it's going to get covered up, so nobody's going to see it. And you can say, okay, that's my halfway point. I need that kind of in the middle of this, because that's at 2 3/4. And then we're going to glue that right there. And you can choose seal or liquid glue. I have a tendency to use tear and tape on these sorts of things because it's got a really strong adhesive. And I want to make sure that with all that movement, it's not going anywhere. And so I put one little strip down and took the backing off, and then I'm putting another strip down, and then I'll take that backing off. I'm removing the one backing before putting the other because they overlap just a little bit. Okay. And so I've got this extra little 3/8 of an inch is on the top, but we're going to butt this right up to that score line in the middle. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put some tear and tape on the 1/2 inch section and remove the backing. And I'm going to go ahead and put my adhesive on the next one, but I'm not going to remove that backing yet. It's just going to be easier for me to put on if it's nice and flat like this. So that one I'm leaving put. Okay, I just have my adhesive on the 1/2 inch sheet. We're going to close that. And see here, you're starting to get an idea of how those little panels are going to work. Okay, this is going to fold down, and then this is going to mount on top of it. Okay, so this piece, and let's go ahead and decorate this. Again, this is going to be easier to do when it's nice and flat. And then this strip is a little narrower than my seal, so let's just use some liquid glue here. Okay. So I'm going to take this off. And I'm going to put that flat side up to that. Okay, now what I want this to do is I want this to sit like that and then fold closed. And you'll see when it folds closed, what's out here at the front is this second score line. So when it's closed, let's see, I need it like that. Okay. So I'm going to peel off that tear and tape, and I'm going to make sure my little arms are underneath because I don't want them glued in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and close my card. And there we go. There is our mechanism. Then we're going to take our little pieces here. And like I said, I want the 2 3/8. Yeah, because it's 2 1/4 by 2 3/8. I want the 2 3/8 to be across the top. So my longer side is going side to side. It's a little bit shorter up and down. And I'm going to mount this on these little arms just like that. Okay, so I've got it up to the top. Again, looking for the wider. Put this across here. Okay, so I haven't seen any comments in a while. Is anybody confused? Is there anything you need me to go over again? That's the beauty of being here live. You can ask me questions. Have I lost anybody yet? I just don't want to get too ahead of myself if somebody's got questions. I'm going to have the measurements for this in my Fun Fold Tutorial Book 4. I write these Fun Fold tutorial books, and in the books are full measurements, directions, diagrams. This is kind of one of those things that's going to need a diagram. So it's going to be in the next book I'm putting out of this. Right now I have volume 1, 2, and 3, and volume 4 is on its way. Yeah, I am going to round that corner just because that's where it kind of hits. And that's when it folds under, it's going to go underneath. It's a little persnickety. I think I might actually come in and trim this down a little bit, maybe make them 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. I don't like how that's hitting. Again, this was a design from Mitsu Crafts out of the UK. It's Jay Serrano and his partner. One of them did this card. But I think it could use a trim just a little bit down the side. Anyway, I'm going to also corner round the 2 white pieces. Then we're going to do some stamping. So I'm going to stamp Happy Birthday on one side and Celebrate on the other. And I want it to be a little bit down towards the bottom and off to the edge because I want it to be seen, you know, on its way out. If I centered it overall, we may not see the whole thing. So I'm going to bring in some pretty and pink ink. And I have Celebrate. Oh, I see what I did. I rounded the wrong corner. Okay, well, let's round both of them. I'm looking at my sample over here, and I rounded the other side. But it's all going to work. Okay, let's see. So Celebrate and Happy Birthday. When I mounted my word stamps, I set the words down on my grid paper on one of the lines, and then I set my block down, again matching up with one of the lines, and so that keeps us straight. And then when I went ahead and stamped, I lined that up with the grid paper as well. Let's see if this helps if we corner around this one. Yep, that does make it work a little better. Okay, so since we corner rounded both of them, we'll do both of them on the white. We'll make it match. And then I wanted a little decoration, and normally I would do some stamping on here, but since I was trying to utilize the ephemera that comes with this designer series paper, this designer series paper has 5 double-sided patterns and 2 of each one. So there's 10 sheets of the 12 by 12 pattern paper. And then there's 2 sheets of these little ephemera pieces that are pre-cut, pre-stamped little pieces that make it super easy to put cards together. And we have a couple of different pattern papers that do that right now. There's a Christmas set, there's this set. They're great for scrapbooking, but I also use them for the cards. The scrapbooking ones actually come with an additional sheet of stickers. I don't know if you've seen that yet. Some of the Stampin' Up! Designer Series papers, they come just as their normal pack of Designer Series paper. Or it's a little bit extra and you get 2 sheets of the stickers. So keep an eye out on those. Those of you who shop with me, let me know if you'd like the new mini catalog. I'm going to be putting the PDF in the newsletter, of course, along with the PDF of the new online exclusives that are coming out in January. And the fun thing about the PDF of the catalog is you can load it up on your iPad. You can still flip through it, you know, as if it's a book. But then when you click on the item number in that catalog, it's done by issue. It's a catalog software that they use. You click on the item number and it takes you to the online store where you can find that item. How cool is that? Okay, now we're going to take this little piece here. As I said, this one is going to mount our cake back here. So I'm going to put adhesive on the two far ones at either end. And I'm going to start with the end that just has our one. At this end, there's two of them. In this end, there's one. I'm going to center that right here. And then we can make sure that's good and stuck. Then this one, we're going to do the same thing kind of in reverse of the other. We're going to fold both of them over. We're going to remove this. So both of them folded over. We're going to collapse all our pieces, keeping that flat. And then we're going to close. So then when it opens, it stands up like that. Okay, so this is what's going to hold up our cake. A little crooked. And then I want my cake to go right here. Now this cake has the tray underneath it, and I don't necessarily want the cake tray. So I'm going to come across and just cut that off so that now I can set my cake down and it's going to go flat. And I want it adhered right here so we can put some adhesive, probably liquid may have worked a little cleaner, because we want to make sure it's just on the center. Had we added this to the back, you may want to double check where that's going to hit, because not all of the back of the cake hits. It only hits that little bit in the middle. So you would want to make sure that your adhesive is just behind the cake. Right, and then I did something simple, as I said, on the outside. So I'm going to come in with my little flowers and just make some floral arrangements. So let's bring in some glue dots and some mini dimensionals and just start building our little bouquet here. And I do have a card designed for next week. So I will, like I said, I'm not going to be going live on Thursday because it's Thanksgiving, but I do have more cards designed for upcoming lives. And so I'm going to try to get those scheduled ahead of time on my channel so you can go in and request to be notified when I go live. Oops. There we go. Trying to hurry this along because this is not the part you came here to watch me for, is to stick things on here, right? And then I promised I would show you how the other piece works. We're going to be using that banner punch pieces to put our sentiment up there. So I punched out the double-ended banner in Pretty in Pink, and then I punched out the single flagged banner in white, and then I stamped the sentiment in Pretty in Pink. Then I'm just going to come in with my snips, and we're going to cut off this flagged end. And then I'm going to mount that one in the middle of this. And then mount this to my card. Okay, so there is our Hideaway pop out. Using the Wildflower Birthday Designer Series paper. So I hope you give it a try. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to get a hold of me. You know, email, Facebook, all of those things. I'm available. I want to point out tomorrow that we have a sale going on. Stampin' Up! Is having their first ever Black Friday sale, and they're going to have our paper trimmer and the replacement blades and the scoring blades and the Stampin' blends 40% off. And then there's going to be 15% off a couple more things. I put the details in my newsletter that went out last week. I'm going to do another one that's going to go out today or maybe first thing in the morning so that you guys have all the links so you can go in there and take advantage of the awesome Black Friday sale that Stampin' Up! Is having. And then if you are a Paper Pumpkin subscriber, you may want to look into that. Maybe it's a great gift. If you have grandkids that maybe like arts and crafts, Paper Pumpkin is a monthly kit that comes in the mail, and they're going to have a sale on that too. So Cyber Monday is our prepaid Paper Pumpkin sale. So you want to make sure you are taking advantage of that. You can check my website and make sure you are on my newsletter list because that's where all this stuff goes out. Put that down here. That's also where you would find my tutorial store where my tutorials and the books and all that other stuff is. And that's at queenbeecreations.net. And it's down there in the comments. So thank you to everyone for joining me and making our fun little interactive card. Thanks so much. Bye.